Okay.
Hi,
Who
Scott.
knows which one that one actually is going to show up on
Right, it'll be all
the.
backwards and look like we're pointing out to nowhere.
Well, we're getting better because the first one was like kind of we're both like, is it on? Are we live? Like, so. Hey, welcome to Rip Currents. I'm Scott Martin with my co-host
I'm Julie
and
Boake.
yep, Julie Boake, and we're going to talk about some pretty exciting things. We're going to talk about loyalty, but first, before we do that, how was your week?
It was a pretty good week, actually. It was kind of nice and manageable. Is definitely not as exciting as yours, but it was, the standard.
What do you mean it wasn't exciting as mine? What was exciting about mine?
Okay, seriously,
Oh,
David
I have.
Carson? Like,
Okay, so
I'm
well,
like swooning still. I'm like all excited for you.
I got some not great news. He didn't show up. Didn't message me.
No.
And by the way, that's the fifth time. The first three times he didn't show up. The fourth time I finally got him on, and he just came in from surfing, and his computer he couldn't get onto Riverside. Well, not Riverside. I was on the other Zencaster, I think,
Yeah.
and he couldn't figure it out. So I was like, okay, well let's reschedule it. And then when I messaged him, he confirmed. He's like, yeah, let's do it, man. We've been talking about doing it. I hope he's okay because I haven't heard anything back. I followed up with him and I haven't heard anything. So
That's crazy.
you know, my the staff here in the Rip Current studio are let's just kind of call it a day. If he comes back and he wants to be on the show, I'll find a way to make it. But I'm probably gonna. Sadly, I was so looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to it.
Mhm.
The intersection of graphic design, surfing, and stuff. So, anyways,
I know it was actually one of the people that I thought blended both you and I's interests so much, like
I
with
know.
all the surf art and I think that's interesting. I have one person in my life that they're periodically like will cancel, they'll not show up, they'll ghost, and then just show up out of nowhere and be like, "Hey, let's get together. Let's do," and I'm always like, "Where does this come from?" You know what I'm like? There's got to be a root to this mindset or I don't know this behavior. I find it very strange. Me being like a Virgo, very linear, pre-plans things and pretty organized. It's just not my mindset. I don't get my head around it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to browbeat him, but it's like when people don't respect my time, it pisses me off.
Hmm.
And I get that he's a really busy person, but I think in general, artists can be not as mindful because they're thinking about creative things. Maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure, but yeah, it is what it is. Good news, you're here. I'm here.
Yeah, no,
So
this
my
is
week was
great.
maybe not as exciting as you were hoping I was going to say.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
was really looking forward to it because just for the audience, Scott was going to ask a question for me to David, and
Yeah.
I was going to have to wait for the podcast to find out the answer. So I guess I will still wait.
It'll have to wait. So, um, yeah. So let's talk about our topic, or let's talk about what's
Well,
going
I
on. Oh, go ahead. Did you have something
no,
more you
go
want to say
ahead.
about what your week was like?
No, 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 no. I didn't actually get to hear about the rest of your week aside from
Oh,
that.
my week. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Well, I mean, I think I may have brought it before. I kind of furthering the ball with my community groundswell in the circle. I'm going to be. I think we have a date, maybe, hopefully, which will be the middle of November, launching my new app. So
Okay.
for the community, I'm super excited about that. And this week was full. I've been on this platform Hubble. I think I talked about it about 4 episodes
Yeah.
ago, and I had four conversations this week from the platform, and I'm finding it quite rewarding. I'm getting exposed to just so many new people and stuff like that. So that was super. That was awesome. Um, and what else I'm trying to think? I should probably put some. I always feel like the week goes by, and there's so much stuff that goes on. I don't even remember what the heck happened. I published
Yeah.
a really interesting article that I want to share. It's about reshaping brand value. I posted it in
Oh,
my LinkedIn publication wavelengths, and it was from this video that I saw from Simon Sinek, and it just triggered It just happened to be around one of the chapters I'm working on, and it triggered. I'll share it really quick.
Yeah.
Um, Unrelated to our general topic, but let me see again here. Share. I just got to get
That's what this is all about. We can just pivot it whenever we want.
totally. Here we go. I think it's this one. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. I need to.
Squirrel.
No, it's not squirrel as much as I need to get my screens. My Here we go. Now we need to share. Sorry, it's just like it's just different. It's not like Vimeo. Okay, here we go. Share. Okay, so this is the video clip that I'm going to play. Got to make sure
Okay.
I've got hopefully the volume on.
I've gone on dates
Got
where
it.
literally the person I'm on a date with, they're like, "Have you ever been married?" And they say to me,
It
"What's wrong
bounced.
with you? Why haven't you been married?" And the value of human is now going to go up because value of machine is low. So like things that come off an assembly line are perfect and not special. Your Pottery Barn mug, it is perfect in every way. But a Japanese ceramic mug made by hand with its imperfect sides and the wonky glaze is more beautiful. It is more beautiful because it is human, because it is imperfect. And I think we're going to start to want imperfect, and we're going to want handmade and hand drawn and hand conceived and handwritten because we want effort. Effort has value. The value of human.
Did you catch all the audio on that?
Yeah. You know what? I had this conversation with my niece as well when I don't know if we touched on it, but there was that AI artist that did like cartoons. And I said to her, I think art is going to become more valuable. There's so much more beauty in our imperfection. That whole Japanese idea of taking things that are broken them and filling them with gold, and the fact that they're not perfect anymore, they're stronger and they're better. I 100% agree with this. I think we're starting to sense tone that we know is ChatGPT. We're starting to sense, we can tell visuals, even the deep fakes, I feel like there's just something in our gut that's like that doesn't look right. And I will take this further and say I think we're going to go into a way of being and living that we are going to be even putting down our phones, right? There's generations that the next I think Gen Z that are
Mm-hmm.
going to back to the basics, the flip phone and everything like that. I think even us, like I found, funny enough, based on not based on that, but I started doing Shishiko stitching because I think it's beautifully imperfect, and I just it's a time to disconnect from technology, from your phone, and do something with your hands. Touch stuff, very tactile. Uses your brain, but it's almost like gets you to a meditative state because you're just doing the same thing repetitively. I think all of that we're gonna want to disconnect from technology because we're gonna appreciate the human. We're gonna appreciate the real world out there. We're going to get back to doing a lot more hiking and spending time with our pets and just going for walks instead of just sitting on our phones. We're gonna practice disconnection, I think.
Yeah, I think there's disconnection, human, all those other things. This specifically for me is human effort as an economic value. It's never. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like it used to be perfection. Is it great? It had all these things. And you look at that carving, you look at the Michelangelo, you look at those things. We've always valued it, but I think now, like when you think of a waiter coming up and going, "Well, this cheese was made in the Alps with the special goat that's been massaged every day."
Mhm.
That's always been there for sort of like those components. But I think now more than ever, where brands need to bring forward the effort. So building in like I think you sent me a clip about um, of a video of I can't remember his name is a talk host and they're talking about branding, bringing branding people in, and it's like the democratization of branding, and you're seeing the democratization of everything and the
Mhm.
transparency of the process and people showing that like I'm working with a client and we did these beautiful pictures of that and it almost looks like the manufacturer pictures, but we're going
Mhm.
to put the date or put some marcation that that's us, like that was us at that location, um, you know, um, I think that like you and I talked about on the brand guide for your client, the jet company. I think I have on there, show the fact that you've traveled somewhere, show the pin drop. Like that was, that was conceived, a couple years ago. That was just maybe forward thinking, but I think more now than ever, that's going to be the way, is show the work behind the effort, you know.
And I think with that, I think the way brands are going to use this and have been using this is life in the stories, right? When Instagram reels and posts are our finished version, our stories are the B roll, right? It's the
Mm.
behind the scenes, it's the real people, it's how we're thinking to get to the process, the stumbles and the errors along the way. And I think there's a feeling in the stories that people get from that realism, that authenticity. I think that's probably why a lot of people like TikTok, because it goes one step further and it is all the real you, right? It's not about being
Nowhere to
designed
hide.
and
Yeah.
polished and all that. And I do think that there's definitely going to be a way. But for the average business, how do you think the average business will show that they're human? Like, do you think it's
It's not about
doing more
human though.
behind
That
the
is a
scenes?
portion of it. It's effort. There's a
Hmm.
difference. Like human is like are we human? Are we empathetic and all this kind of stuff? And when I looked at we're talking about the topic of loyalty, and I looked at the Ogilvy empathy loyalty stats, and it's definitely like want to be more human, more empathetic, but it's like the effort, like taking the time of a handwritten thank you note from your business. Like that's a very simple way of sort of disclosing that you're worth the effort. Like we want to feel it was worth it. We're not a number. It's like I think my very
Hmm.
first podcast episode was called Humans, Not Customers. It was a shift right away when I wanted my whole podcast of people don't want to be customers. They don't want to be a number. They want to be important. They want to be felt. They want to be seen. So I think that taking the effort that you care about them, that's where the hyper personalization comes in some ways that's where AI can help, right? Hyper personalization can help as a process to go. For example, you could use AI in a database to go, ooh, Scott's been here 5 times. Maybe you
Yeah.
should recommend these things, but it'll take the human interaction and something with human effort to demonstrate it. But maybe behind the scenes, that's where AI plays a different role.
So I want to tell you, how I thought of, like, kind of triggered this story on this thought on loyalty.
Yeah.
It's because, and this ties both sides together. Rory Sutherland had a post where he discussed that every day he would go to, you know, on his way to work, he would go to this one vendor. He would get his cigarettes. He would get
I
matches
saw
or
this
lighter,
post.
whatever he
Yeah.
every day. And then one day he had enough for the cigarettes, but not enough for the transit. So he just said to the guy, "Hey, can you loan me the money?" And the guy, having seen him every day, still said no. And from that point forward, Rory said, I went everywhere but there to get my cigarettes, right? This was years ago. So that made me start me on this thought about loyalty. And I think that's this one opportunity. AI could not have replaced that, like, will you lend me money for the transit, right? But that's that hyper personalization. We have a relationship. I know you, I see you every day, I can trust you. I'll tell you, one day I had my car serviced and I forgot my wallet. I had walked down and I'd forgotten my wallet, and they said, well, just take your car and then come back. And I was like, you're going to let me take my car without paying for it? They're like, you're going to come back. And I thought that was so nice. But that type of thing I don't think happens anymore. I don't feel like we have that same, or that we've gotten away from that essence. And I think we're going to go back to it, to much to the human aspect, that service aspect, that building relationships, building loyalty, all of that is going to come together and be even more important. Like we've talked about experiential marketing and how important that's going to be, because things are going to change. We're going to want to get out. I think this aspect of how can you, much to what you said, how can you show that you're human? What are these different things that can make you more human, more relatable, more accessible, and more present for your customers and your clients as well?
But in that case, It was a human that made that decision. It wasn't
Yeah.
defaulting to I have a system. It was a newsstand guy. So
Yeah.
so the more human, it's not always like it's almost like the discussion isn't loyalty. It's what triggers disloyalty,
Well,
right? Like,
that's exactly what made me start thinking about what creates loyalty and what
and it's
breaks
not human.
loyalty.
It's actually loyalty isn't. I don't think it's actually human. I think it's standards. Why I say that
Mhm.
is in that case he didn't have a standard. In that case he didn't have a system in place or a set of rules going, hey, this is more important. Stepping over dollars to pick up pennies is not a good idea, right? Like,
I
so,
think contrary, I actually think that his system was not to lend money. I
that's what I
think
mean.
his
Like he was
system
stepping over
didn't
dollars to
allow
pick up pennies.
flexibility.
Yeah, he wasn't
Yeah.
thinking about the total lifetime value of this client. So loyalty,
Mhm.
like I actually built a loyalty company and sold it, loyalty engine. So I really was embedded in loyalty for years. In fact, I owned Loyalty Dash Marketing and sold it for a lot of money back in the day. Anyways, um, the whole idea around you have to know you have to be committed to total lifetime value, like seeing the
Mhm.
future value of the decisions that you make, and oftentimes policies and criterias they fail because the person
Mhm.
delivering it isn't empowered. And when I see great loyalty is when they actually give they democratize the loyalty decision making at the ground level. And I'll give you an example. So when I worked at Earl's Joey Tomatoes, I remember the manager would give the waitresses the ability, or the waiters and waitresses, the ability to just comp a dessert on the moment, and if they felt that something came up, they were given that level of judgment. It's a $14 decision, rather than coming to the manager and go, let me go talk to a manager. And it just created a different level of like, no, I've
Mhm.
got you, a relationship with them. They could be decisive there. So, I think that there's systems in place can actually enable that, but it's usually it's people's short line because they're thinking lifetime. They're not thinking in the short term. I think that's probably the biggest thing is thinking a bigger picture, whatever the rule is, whatever the thinking is.
Yeah, and I think like that's where I thought that the two conversations kind of came together because it's human can make error, right? And it can show up, and I think as we get back to wanting that customer service level, that relationship level, that loyalty level. I wrote a blog on just the conversation around it because I was looking back. I remember I used to know my banker. Her name was Eunice. I'm not going to say her last name, but her name was Eunice. And I was 16 and I knew my banker. And it came in handy one day when I was going to the bank. I forgot my bank card at home. And so I thought I'll go into the bank and get some cash out directly. And they said, oh, you don't have the proper bank ID. Da, da, da. And I said, well, just call my bank. And they could call my bank. And my banker knew me well enough that she could vouch for me. And I thought, is that even possible nowadays?
I don't think so.
Like you couldn't do something like that. But I don't even know my banker. Periodically they keep changing the person who's assigned to me on the side of my screen, but this person has never called me. And I've been with the same bank for 30 some years now and doesn't call me, doesn't follow up with me, doesn't ask me any questions, doesn't verify my account, nothing like that. And I thought, we've changed so much from where loyalty is and where it was, and I think it's going to be an important aspect for businesses to get back to is to rewarding loyalty, looking at how they can have relationship programs with their clients, not just personalization using, a formulation bracket name on an email, but how can you really actually personalize something and target your clients and show you actually know who they are? I think
Yeah,
we're getting tired of the
rewards
automation.
by nature for repeat or frequent behavior is very transactional. It's not very
Hmm.
emotional. It's not very. It doesn't have a lot of depth, and I think it goes back to disloyalty. I think that's the what triggers disloyalty is probably what trips up most businesses. A lot of businesses think loyalty, going, well, if I do these things and you're loyal, we're going to reward you and so forth. And I'll give you an example. Like I was online and I saw TELUS had this deal, and it was incredible. And I'm like, I've been with TELUS for 12 years. That deal is better than what I got. So I phoned them. I'm like, oh, like in my mind, I'm going, I should, get that deal, whatever. They told me they couldn't give it to me. And the reason
Yeah,
was because I'm not a new customer. And you can imagine my like, like
this
I'm
doesn't make
going,
sense.
like my wife knows, like, oh man, like don't be doing this with me on, like I'm like going, get me I want to talk to, like they said no, and I escalated it, and I ended up getting the deal. But the fact that I did it is actually why big reason why I've left. I no longer have them as a service provider. It was a trigger for disloyalty for me. It's like they aren't even looking out, let alone they weren't even like looking out for me. Like the loyal thing to do would be, hey, you've been here with 12 years. We've got this offer. Can you imagine how what it felt going, wow, I didn't even know about it. And you actually told me about it. But they don't do it because they make money on people not knowing. But what they don't realize that they stepping over dollars again to pick up pennies. They did that, and then now I'm completely telling the story about TELUS, and TELUS is the company that I'm referring to repeatedly, right? Because they are so doggone focused on just top line revenue. And it's like the biggest thing about loyalty is it's about why are people leaving? Attrition rate is probably the single biggest factor. What's creating this disloyalty? What's creating
Mhm.
defection? That to me is like the source of the real truth of like how to really like approach loyalty, because transactional stuff is, I mean, it's there, but it's kind of gone by the wayside. Like most loyalty programs, you know like I don't think that anybody went to Safeway because they had the miles program back in the day. That's why it left, because nobody cared. They just collected points and they benefited from it. I didn't decide to go to Safeway because I have a loyalty card. The whole purpose of a loyalty transaction card is to have me pick one over the other, right? There's like a
Yeah.
distinctive difference, right? And sort of a lock in. But nowadays it's not enough. And so I think that there's this whole a new concept that I think I like to present for loyalty, which is based on invite, delight, reward. It's from my book Groundswell. And invite, delight, reward, that framework is something me and my business partner, when we built loyalty engine, is like actually how we built our whole practice. And the idea is first, when you get customers, it's an invitation.
Hmm.
The second is when they take the invitation. So say the invitation is the offer, right? You actually delight them in the moment of decision. It was better than they said. Then it's a two-way street. They did something, you want them to do something again. Maybe it's fill out information, maybe invite a friend, maybe sign up or fill out a form. Then you reward them. And the
Hmm.
reason for this process in that format of invite, delight, reward, it's counterintuitive, because all marketers, they want to like throw, that's why they think everyone's a liar, because we post all these things up front going, this is everything that's there, and they want to make it as best it can be. And then it's always worse after you buy it. You're like, oh, but your relationship value went down. The
Yeah.
customer experience, it was the best it was when you explained it. It should be the other way around, which is, oh my goodness, working with Julie is awesome. And then it was better. And she didn't even tell me that. It was just like that. If I think if businesses could do that, that actually would do more for loyalty, because the word of mouth and my desire not to leave is, it was already better than what I paid for.
Hmm.
That to me, I think, is the real prescription for loyalty, is in the customer experience. And that's why, my book, The Brand Coherence Conversation, is it can only be coherent if it actually finishes and you deliver it. It's not just what you market, it's what you do.
Yeah, my experience was similar to yours, Scott. I was with Scotiabank for a long time. When I decided to start building savings, I opened an ING or Tangerine account, and they were famous for having the high interest rates, but you were getting a better interest rate if you were a new client. But if you called in every 6 months to a year when they were doing that promotion and sat on hold and fought and complained about it, they would give you the same promotion as a new client. And
Reluctantly.
I thought,
It's called reluctant
yes,
compliance. Yeah.
reluctantly. And now they do it automatically, which kudos to Tangerine for offering this the same rate to new clients as loyal or older clients.
But
But
do they,
I
hold on,
I
so I
was
want to
wondering,
make clarification. So is that they'll do it automatically, but only when you alert them to it? Or do they
no, now they'll
actually
do it
do it in,
automatically.
oh, so they'll,
Yeah.
bravo.
If they do have a
Slow
promotion, they
clapping
give
right
it to
now.
all
Slow
clients.
clap.
I know,
Make it
right?
awesome.
I think that's brilliant. But I started to dig into when this shift happened. And I think the shift happened when our mindset changed. When you started marketing, probably, I don't know, similar to around when I started, we had this very ingrained belief that a new customer costs 7 times as much as an existing customer. So service your existing customer, right? Sound familiar?
Hmm.
So we were hyper focused on serving our existing customer, doing what we could, building those relationships, all of that kind of stuff, the stuff that I think we're going to need to get back to, you know, the human element. But then the stock market, I'm going to say, is I think that the shift moment, like
Short-term
in the
thinking,
90s, 2000s,
quarter to quarter.
yeah, it was how do we make the shareholders happy? How do we, boost our stock and everything like that? So then it was a very, very much a growth mindset, right? How do we just acquire, how do we make our books good with acquiring new customers nonstop? And so then the shift went from servicing our existing customer base to growing a new customer base and reaching as many customer base. You mentioned Telus and Shaw, both competitors here, right?
Oh, but Shaw used to be terrible before. It bounces back, and then finally they get caught up going,
Yeah.
oh, we need to change our behavior, and then they go back and forth.
Do you know in my household when I had my commercial space, I had Telus there and Shaw here because inevitably one would go down and I
Right.
could just drive home or I could just drive to work and use the internet, right? That's kind of sad to have to think of that way. But we could constantly go back and forth if we wanted on who had the better deal, right? You're like, my business paid half of what we were paying at home for the same services. So it didn't make any sense. But they were, remember, it was back in the day where like you could get a new TV, you can get an
Yeah.
iPad, $200. So we taught consumers to chase the shiny new benefits,
Well, yeah,
right? We
we
taught
train them to
people
be
not to be loyal.
disloyal.
Yeah. And now then we complain now, we're like, how come clients aren't loyal? I went to like, we even looked at during the pandemic, we just wanted people to shop local, not one place, but shop local. But you couldn't be loyal because some restaurants weren't open, your favorite ones, so you're just like broadening it. We're just gonna try to shop local. But then how did Amazon record its best years at a time when everybody's shopping local? Right? We weren't doing that. We were already taught not to have loyalty. We were already taught to be disloyal and to just choose the easiest. Right now, we've been so trained to not pay for shipping that now when someone has a shipping cost on a website, we're like, well, yeah, I don't want Amazon won't charge me shipping. Right? So we've been trained as customers to behave in a certain way. And so how do marketers get that loyalty back? How do marketers go full swing back and businesses and brands go full back? I think now is probably the best time as we go to somewhat more of an analog way of thinking or a non-technology based way of thinking. I think now is probably the best time for us to build that.
I think it's like re-looking at your value proposition. And, with the economy being tight, certainly consumers are getting, concerned about the value. But
Hmm.
you also can make an argument for I would pay more with fees, like slightly more for the fees at my bank if I actually could always talk to a person and they pick up the phone and not go through teleprompts and not go through robos and all that kind of stuff. I'd
Hmm.
happily pay more. And I think that is the defining line is looking for innovative, creative ways for how can you add value that matters to people, so it doesn't erode your bottom line. It's a race to the bottom to just always look at price.
Hmm.
And adding more features isn't enough. You got to look at very creatively in ways to do that. And I'll give you an example of something I just did recently. So in every year I have a rolling program. So in June, I have my summer pass for my community. It's the only time of year I put it on sale, and I get 2 months for free. And what did I do when I did it? Anyone that's in my community knows I gave them a notice. And the notice was, I'm actually offering this 2 months for free to new subscribers. But wait, I want you to know I deeply value you. I'm launching, and I already knew I was doing it. I'm going, you're getting free early access to a $300 course, a $222 course, and all these other things. that you get exclusive access to. Nobody new gets it, only you get it. And that's because I want you to know that I value. I want you to
Mhm.
realize that I value more than the
Yeah.
new people that have not actually, invested time being in the community. So I went out of my way to communicate it, to add value creatively with it, and inform them and just be upfront for it. And I never got any. No one complained. Nobody left. I mean, it was really, you could argue that's just one example of an idea, but thinking differently about what do people value, what do they want. It's not always money. It's not discount.
Oh no, you know what? It's interesting because I was in a recent contract negotiation, right? And one of the things that was like, it wasn't about the money. And it was all about the other things that, could I have make an impact? What would actually make my life richer besides money? And you start to think about that. I think about, you know, I don't like I don't like going to get my car serviced. So much so that right now I need an oil change because I haven't had, like, I don't drive my car very much, but it's been a year. I won't do it until my husband gets home. My husband doesn't mind dealing with the dealership. I like the brand of car. I happen to hate the service. I
Oh,
hate
I know what
whenever
you
I
mean.
go in there. Yeah, I hate when I go in there. I hate the way they treat. But another car, I used to have an Acura back in the day. I loved going in there when they're like, you would go in, they would be so nice. They'd always have like snacks,
Oh my god.
decent things on the
Yeah.
TV. They made it feel like you were at like this mini, spa for like a couple hours, and it was just delightful. It was so peaceful, not hectic. Whereas now it's chaotic. They're asking a bunch of questions that I'm like, I have no idea. This is, it absolutely different experience. And I think that, like, how in your environment even can you make it so that you show that you're valuing your clients more? Like, I my dentist does that all the time. They little things, even just remembering things about me. Like, hey, Julie, last time we were
Oh,
talking,
totally.
this was going on. Those are just little human things that make it feel like you're actually a valued person in the chair. I recently got an email this morning. I attended a webinar for a conference that I'm going to next month. I attended the webinar. This morning, they sent me an email asking me if I would like to buy tickets to the conference. I bought tickets to the conference a year ago. So immediately, you know how that makes people feel. They're like, "Oh, well, this is just so generic," right?
Mhm.
Especially when they get it wrong. I think that's the worst part is when you actually just get it so wrong too because you're using automation without considering all of the factors.
One of the things I think most people across the board, around the world, value time. If you think of the time, there's different levels of the time. I think time continuum. I think what Joe Pine calls it, which is first is time wasted, time
Mhm.
spent, time well spent, time well invested. I think is the way it works, right? And you're telling me the story. This is where Brent name dropping. I don't care. The my Toyota dealership, awesome. They were so good. Their service has been amazing. The one out in Cochrane, amazing, and I just love them. And I I bought my for like for years, for like 15, 20 years. I every couple years I buy a new 4Runner. I bought, as you know, a couple years ago I bought a brand new Porsche, and I thought because it's a luxury, I was expecting this luxury experience. It was terrible.
Mhm.
And the service department actually is not that great. I'm gonna be really honest. And when I bought it, I went to Toyota to finance it because their financing
Mm.
department, and they were so good. Porsche made a really a killer deal, so I kind of just went with it. But I did go to them, and they quoted on it because that's how level of like my loyalty was. I'm buying another brand, and I'm happy to get you to make the real money, which is the financing with you guys. And they were happy to do
Mhm.
it. They're going, we'll take care of you. They knew me.
Yeah.
They're like, we've been with you for years. Happy to do it. And the part of it was great because I'm self-employed. They're like, it was an approval on like they approved me over the phone. Where
Oh,
Porsche was
wow.
making me jump through a bunch of hoops. I said, no, don't worry about it. I got financing through Toyota. And they went, oh, they're gonna finance you? Okay. And then they didn't even they that's part of the reason. But it just shows, right? Like it's not that it's time. Are you wasting my time? And also, do you care? And do you remember and know who I am and thinking more of a long term? I think these are all the things that either make you feel disloyal or you don't feel like you're valuing my time. I don't feel like I want to be loyal to you.
But it's interesting. I just did a discussion on Tuesday about how 95% of your purchases are emotional or based somewhere in your subconscious. And so when you think about that, like the value of time, that's an emotional. That's not, there's no logic, right? Or there is logic. People associate time, but we think of what we value. And a lot of what we value comes to something emotional, goes back to something emotional, of valuing our time, being seen, being heard, you know, meeting our needs, even, right? And so whether something's aspirational or not, there's an emotional attachment there. And even that loyalty, if somebody can tap into any one of those emotional things for us, and for you it was being seen, being appreciated, being respected, right? And you're like, yeah, you've got me. You've triggered these emotional connections that make purchase decisions easier with Toyota. Same is on the reverse, right? Somebody, treats you like they don't see you, they don't acknowledge you, they don't respect you. Same thing, disloyalty, right? And that's where being a longtime customer, not seeing us as longtime customers and just rewarding new customers, makes us feel so bad.
There's another level. There is. This is gonna sound. It's funny because this is. I've put a lot of thought into this. Is the other level is think of irrational.
Mm-hmm.
So you talked emotional, subconscious, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's irrational loyalty. Think of fans of sporting teams that fail every year and they still happily show up and pay
Toronto.
tickets. You think of yeah, it's like you think of some brands. They have a sub like their service is terrible or their product isn't as good, but it's based on a value. Meaning, like for example, like they're saving the trees. I don't care that it's crappy, but they're saving the trees, so it's aligned with my values. So
Mm-hmm.
when things are there's two components. When they're aligned with your values, or it's a transformation. Those two things, I'll explain the transformation in a second. Those are two things create the rational behavior. That irrational behavior means you'll even when you should be disloyal, even when they aren't delivering service, they're going against all those other things we just talked about. They'll still be loyal. The transformation is this: is when I've transformed the way whatever you thought. For example, Uber. If
Mm-hmm.
you took a cab, the minute you took an Uber, you probably told a bunch of other people. We've talked about I think that once or twice. And when you're compelled to tell other people, I no longer, even if Uber was maybe longer, like say the wait time was like I literally this has happened. I could jump. We were in Europe. I could have jumped in the cab, right there, and it wasn't a long drive, or I could just wait for the Uber. I waited for the Uber. It's irrational.
You know what I do love about Uber, before I move on, is that you could rate the customers.
Yeah.
I think there's such a value in that when eBay does it, when you buy a purchase, and there's you rate, right? At Facebook Marketplace, buyer seller, you can rate. I think there's such an ownership for good behavior that comes from that I think it's fascinating. I'll tell you, like, I think what your irrational loyalty, vehicle manufacturers, like that's a prime one. My dad's a Chevy guy, and it doesn't matter. His Chevy throughout his whole life, his parents had Chevys. They could make anything, and my dad will want to buy it. Such an irrational, even if it doesn't make sense. I owned a Range Rover. You want to talk about unreliable vehicle? Didn't care, right? But that was an emotional purchase for me, right?
Mhm.
That you do. And I think that's where, we consider, that's where AI can't replace some of these human, logical or illogical, conscious or subconscious, emotional or irrational. They don't know and understand all of those connection things. And I think that, coming full circle, Scott, well, it's why you build a strong brand, right? But it's why also brands have to remember there's a place right now that AI won't replace, and that is being human and the importance of being human.
It's on the topic of I've like just in the last I did the brand builder summit and I've probably added
Mhm.
about 300 brand strategists to my like LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And just recently, I've been in a lot of personal conversations. I've been like sending voicemails. I've been just really connecting on that level. And what it feels to me in branding is one of the challenges, not one of the one of the trends, is the whole rise of agencies, right? Large agencies. I think they've
Mhm.
given way to the dissatisfaction of branding. It's like the manufactured branding because they need to do it at scale to make money. It's like they've almost become their own thing. And with AI, the one benefit of AI is the democratization of branding. I think that the solopreneur brand strategist is going to function like a 15-person branding agency. And the more
Mhm.
personal that human sort of like intimacy, that's why they grab people like you and they try to bring them in your company because understanding that level of intimacy that you can get with a business that no agency can deliver, right? You
Mhm.
and I both have experienced that. You know, I'm on a fractional CMO little piece that I have because they the same thing. They worked with an agency and it was they just
Mhm.
would not understand the intimacy and the level. And I think this is the trend for branding
Yeah.
is because it is and with it's only going to go exponential with AI because they're going to be going. We need somebody that knows this little nuance and these little things in between the lines and can kind of help us with those surprising moments of truth that create loyalty, that create inflection points, that create experiences that can help us imagineer ways that we can be creative thinking around transformational design or thinking of ways that we can personally interact with our customers. AI won't be able to do that. And that's why I think it's the
Yeah.
rise of the solopreneur brand strategist. It's a renaissance. And I've been talking of all my these brand strategists going, they're with the conversations have been about the worry about AI and stuff. I'm like, no, no, don't worry about it. That's gonna remove all the mediocre and people that are kind of like the tourists, the brand tourists that went into marketing, you know them and I do. How many people
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
suddenly now went became marketing and just like right now, who's the AI bros? Like, you know, here today, gone tomorrow. I've
Mhm.
seen these tourists come and go all the time, but the people that are really into their craft, it's your stock just is going up. It's going to be a renaissance in my mind.
I think, yeah, it's the cream will rise to the top, right? I think we're gonna see a lot of that.
Well, it's gonna be not cream to rise to the top. It's gonna be oil and water. I literally think it's like that. The separation. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it's cream always risen to the top, but I think now it's there's a different the artistry, how this whole thing started, right? Like the effort, where there's going to be that handcrafted, and I'm actually not calling it handcrafted for branding. If you go to my article, I'm calling it shaping because it's kind of with surfing. You shape a
Yeah.
surfboard, and I'm gonna call it
Yeah.
brand shaping because I feel like it's like there's something that's what it's one of the things I love about the surfing industry is like there's a soul to it that those boards there's been a rise of manufactured boards. Go ahead, but the origins and the people who are really into their craft, they go to a handcrafted, hand shaped, I should say, surfboard,
Mhm.
right? And I think that's what people are going to be looking for is these brand shapers, the ones that are going to reshape or shape their brand, and they're going to have their little fingerprints all over them. That's why I think you've been, sought after.
You know what I think is an interesting part of the conversation is while agencies are figuring out how to use AI and focusing on how we can use AI, where we can integrate AI, make AI make us more productive, there's not a single one of our customers that are ever asking for more AI. Like I've not had a customer ever come to me and say, "Hey, Julie, how could we integrate more AI into my design?" Not a single one. Their customers are not saying, "Hey, John's auto body or whatever it is, can you put more AI social media out there? That's what we'd like to like." Like
You know,
nobody else is asking for it. But yet we seem to be focused on delivering it, or we seem to be looking at AI as at where it belongs and things like that, but nobody seems to be asking for it. And I think that's where the agency and the solopreneur or the small business owner or the brand strategist, these individual people, they remember that. We remember that our customers want people. They want human. They want real. They want connection. And so we're, instead of us going, well, let's focus on AI, we're going, let's focus on just what the problem is and solving the problem. And agencies tend to want to maximize and optimize by integrating AI. So I
Hmm.
think there's a line there where who's using it, who's not, where it's being used. Like I can use it. You can use it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to use it with our customers unless our customers want to use it, because when they're coming to us, they're hiring us as a human, not our AI capabilities. And they're hiring our creativity, our intellect, our insight, all of that kind of thing. It's not the customers that are asking for more AI. It's within agencies, it seems to be more demand for AI.
Just because you can does not mean you should. And
Amen.
when people are thinking about AI, and you're right, the customers aren't asking for more AI, but what are they really asking for? From the very beginning of this conversation, I think with, like, right, we're talking about effort. Simon Sinek going, people are value.
Mm,
It's a new form, economic value of effort, and I would say also meaning. So efficiency and meaning don't really co work together. So if I want to create
no.
meaning for the brand, meaning for the messaging, people are looking for more deeper meaning in life and in from brands. It's like it's one of the reasons, like the soul right now. It's actually one of the things I wanted to ask Dave Carson was like, what's your point of view on the surf industry? Because I like my TEDx, I talked about, I actually used the surf ads, three different ads from the TEDx, like, because there's a
Mhm.
soulfulness to it, right? But it's lost its soul. It's like it's lost. The whole industry is lost. It used to have like this soulful meaning, right? And then the private equity firms got a hold of Rip Curl, and now Rip Curl is getting ripped apart and all this stuff. Like, they're all going down, and it's lost its way and it's lost its soulfulness. What does that mean? It's lost its origin meaning to us, like layers of meaning, moments of
Mhm.
truth. That right there is non-AIable. It's non-scalable. It's not, and that's part of one of the challenges with large agencies. I think they just lose touch of that. That's why they're so good for like the larger brands. I think they're never really going to go away. But I think the
Mhm.
fallacy of, I'm a small company, we need to hire a big agency to really take us there. I think it's the opposite. I think you want someone that can intimately understand and connect and create meaning for like the name of the product you're creating, and like, you and I will sometimes talk about like logos and stuff, and it's like, isn't it fun, isn't there more energy when you go, let's put an Easter egg inside of, I've got a couple
Yeah.
Easter eggs in my TEDx that nobody would know. They're for my wife. And she was in the crowd. She laughed her eyes out. Only she and I
Yeah.
know the inside joke. I love hidden meaning. I do Easter eggs all the time. If for no one else, I do it for myself. But when
Mhm.
you're involved in creating meaning, hidden meaning, layers of meaning and stuff, I think when your customers sort of like, they come in and they go, "Oh wow. Oh my goodness." And I'll give you one example. I found this new meaning for a surf brand called Vans. Vans, the shoe company, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I didn't know this about the logo. The logo, if you look at it, it's the V, right? It's a V with the over the
Yeah.
van,
Yeah.
right? Well, that's the square root of, right? And if you take the letters and vans or something like that, and you divide it by the square root, it equates to 420.
Oh.
420. Total inside track for that industry. Soulful meaning. Had no idea. I'm like, what? Like, and so for me, I'm just like, that's what I'm talking about. Like if you're already a customer, and from that particular, unique industry, for that group, it probably just nails it, right?
Mhm. And it makes you appreciate it more. Like clients love to be part of an inside story, inside joke, inside commentary. That's why Taylor Swift is so good at it. She understands that. We want to be part of something.
There's a
And
curiosity
so
when you do that.
by understanding what Vans means, now that you've shared it with everybody, completely different perspective. Like you'll look at it and be like, I feel like I understand that brand more and I appreciate the logo more. And that gives that logo a lot more strength. Like I've had people, I was like literally 2 days ago, 3 days ago, a girl was saying like, I was thinking about updating my logo. And I always ask why.
Yep.
Are you bored of it or are your customers bored of it? Because often that's two different things. Often the customer is not bored of your logo. You're just bored of using it and there's nothing broken or nothing wrong with it. Different story if there's something wrong with it, but I've seen cases where people have changed their logos completely every couple years as a small business owner. I'm like, you're just losing all that traction. And they think by changing my logo, I'm going to get new traction. No, your logo, it connects with people. And if it's done well and it's done right and it means something, it's timeless. Even if it's not attractive, it's still timeless. Like
Well, case in
Pirelli,
point, the
their
Crate
Pirelli
Barrel
logo,
flashback, right? You know, it had
right?
meaning for some people. I would argue the new one's better, but but there's that whole backlash, and that's a good thing. Like when someone's thinking about that, they're going, "What is the purpose of? Why are you doing this logo? Like, is it? It shouldn't be just because I want to change the logo. It's that
Hmm.
it doesn't represent a bigger story, or it's not communicating the feeling, the mantra, something is like incoherent. Is why I would look at it. It's going. It's just not coherent
Yeah.
with where we are, where we've been, or where we're going.
Well, and like things like that make sense. Like I think small business owners, we start our business and we think we're going to do a lot here and our business kind of swerves and it does more in a different area. And sometimes our it is broken. It's no longer representing where our business has grown to. I completely understand that. There's such a big difference between that and, well, I'm just bored. Oh, I like this color. The amount of logos that you can see from trend eras is always fascinating to me. I remember one year doing a lot of teal and brown logos. And how many teal and brown logos do you see nowadays? Right?
Yeah, yeah. You just, but there's another piece that I think is something to be thought of, which is the owner, the founder, if they're gonna be in like forever, this is their business and this is their representative who they are. I'm not talking about larger companies that they're trying to sell or whatever. That has a different sort of. But if this is your forever business, which I'm talking to, like the smaller business, and this is
Hmm.
your business, I'd really like you'd want to love your logo, right? Like I feel
Hmm.
like you want it's like having it's like being irresistible to wanting to share, right? Like I always hazard people that like they're writing books. Like I was in a conversation of a mastermind, and they're all bragging about how they're going to finish a book in like because of AI like in weeks. And I'm like, the purpose of writing a book is not to just barf something out. It's not to add more information. We don't need more information. It's to really provide your wisdom, your unique take, your unique tilt on life, and more importantly, it's like you getting clarity about who you are and what you say. And lastly, is are you really going to hand that book and go, and with the level of energy of like you should really read this book? It's mine took 4 years. I'm not saying it should have taken 4. It should take 2, but it's just because I'm slow. But I know I am proud. I'm like because I mean all the sketches were hand done. Like I poured over that book. Right, the book I'm doing right now. I'm still a year and a half in. And I'm nowhere near getting it done. My goal is spring now of next year, because I want to have my fingerprints and I want it to be like I gave everything I had to it. Why
Hmm.
is it like that's how brands, the logos? I think that all of it applies, right? When you feel that way, you've put your time into it.
You
You and I,
should. I feel like a logo, you should want to tattoo it. It
yeah.
almost is your tattoo because it's something you carry around with you all the time. So you should love it like that. Why not? I wanted to like just sorry, back on our topic of loyalty. We're gonna wrap up here pretty quick. I wanted to mention something that new thing that I've noticed with a lot more companies.
Okay.
First of all, I would love to tell everybody you should not make it that hard for people to unsubscribe. Like if I have found that tiny little spot at the bottom of your email, the 4 point size font that says unsubscribed and clicked on it, I'm serious about it. Don't make me go through all the hoops. But so I recently got rid of my note taker. And I will tell you, okay, I will drop the name. It was Otter AI. I had Otter AI as a note taker. And I recently switched to a different note taker. And so I was trying to leave Otter before my renewal. And when I was quitting, the amount of "are you sure, we'll be happy to give you 66% off. We'll give you 1 year at this rate." The amount of discounts and trying to
Oh,
coerce
I
me
should quickly do
not
that
to
right now to
leave.
get the discount.
Well, Scott, you should.
Yeah.
But I was like, you didn't care about me enough. If they had just given me, hey, Julie, here's a surprise $25 off this month, or here's a surprise $5 off for no reason. Thank you for being a customer. I've been like, maybe I don't need to switch note takers. maybe I like this one. But the fact that they only cared about me when I was leaving, I think that's another thing that brands need to be hyper aware of. I understand, and I don't want to pick on Otter AI. They're very lovely. I've met them in person, but I see numerous brands do it. Like, are you sure? We'll give you this. We'll give you this. Did you mean to unsubscribe? They'll send me an email. Or did you mean to cancel just in case? I'm like, do you think someone's hacking my email, unsubscribing, or canceling my subscriptions for fun? No, I intentionally did it, and the discount's too late. Saving me is too late. But I find that's a huge trend going on right now as well.
It's because that behavior is rewarded. So if the
Mm-hmm.
marketing manager does it, it's a numbers game.
Mm-hmm.
It's it. It's just that they go 5% of people will take it. That's worth the amount of money, like to just continue doing it.
Yeah.
So it's just
But
it's rewarded behavior is the only reason why, you know.
how many clients did they lose that they could have just kept for like, here, Julie, for
Oh
no
yeah,
reason, here's $5.
I
I
agree.
mean,
That's actually that is the new strategy, and it's like it's gonna get with AI. Everybody thinks everything's getting easier with all the social
mhm.
platforms. It's never been easier to market. Truth is, it's never been harder, and it's about to get more difficult.
Yeah.
It's like the game of branding and marketing. You think it was hard before? You need to have people that really are like tuned in because it's about to get way harder and
Yeah.
way noisier. And the signal that you want to create, I think, needs to happen at every point of interaction. And when you get a customer, you need to hang on to that customer and do whatever you can within the means of the business. It's not like you're falling over yourself to keep people in the business, but like being creative and maybe even like, can you imagine if someone just out of the blue, it's like our strategy today is imagine you're the marketer going, what we're going to do is I want us to take a cut of 20% of revenue and just give it to our existing customers. Do you know what how hard that would be for that marketer to sell it? But the truth is that would be one of the smartest strategies you could
Mhm.
possibly do. You're feeding the roots.
Yeah. That's rewarding that bird. The bird in the hand is worth twice two in the bush, right? One customer is one attracting a new customer costs 7 times as much. If we actually went back to that thinking and just was like, what can we just do that's just nice for our clients? I think that's if I were to say like it's not even about loyalty, but if you have a customer, keep a customer. Just focus on how do you keep a customer, whether that is creating exceptional experiences, that personalization, those things that, remembering little things, all of those non-AI things that you can bring that make you stand out. Still easier and cheaper. And as marketing gets incredibly noisy and the platforms get full of just so much garbage feed, it's going to be more important.
Yeah, you just gotta let them know that you're appreciating sometimes.
Hmm.
Like, hey, we appreciate your business and we know that it's, you could pick somebody else over you and just creating an offer or creating some sort of condition or even acknowledgement that you value their business. That it's just taking the time sometimes, and
Hmm.
it doesn't have to be a costly, you don't have to throw money at it. Can you imagine if a business and the business manager just wrote a personal handwritten note to, your customer base going, thank you. That's it. What would that do?
Yeah.
The cost of that would cost you time. It's annoying. Probably got to spend some time signing it, licking stamps, putting them out there. But
Well,
compared to what you probably give away, like the 60% off, like cheap.
I'll tell you, Scott, we can't do that right now because, in case you missed it, Canada Post went back on strike.
Oh, don't even, the Canadian, yeah. We'll just like no
Now,
comment
that's
on
a
this.
brand I don't want to talk about because the list of things that could go wrong, we need a whole hour for that.
Oh my goodness, yeah. The Rip Currents political edition. Well, thanks. This was a
Tune in
great
on
episode.
Tuesdays.
A good suggestion on the loyalty. I think this was a great talk. I
Yeah,
think
I
it was.
think it's something that's timely, especially as we go into the holiday season. And good thing to keep in mind, we're going to be attracting new customers, getting new people noticing us. We can really maximize these opportunities right now.
Yeah,
So,
awesome. Well, guys,
thanks, Scott.
Until next time, that's another episode. This is episode 8 of Rip Currents, and shameless little plug. You should join the Groundswell community at groundswellinnercircle.com and follow Julie and myself on LinkedIn. And until next time, mahalo.